I was preparing for this conversation in the morning, and I looked up the AQI in Srinagar. Srinagar this morning was 145. Delhi was 350. But in the past week, Srinagar has actually hovered close to, sections of Srinagar have gone up to 300. So when you come from Srinagar to Delhi, where do you breathe easier, both literally and politically?
Okay. Politically, I breathe easier in Srinagar. These days, the sky seems to be bluer in Delhi. But we're hoping to have a course correction this weekend. We've had a very long dry spell. And because of the geography of, and I'm not going to bore you with the details, but essentially because of the geography of the valley, there is nowhere for this pollution to flow out. So unless it rains and settles, it basically hovers over us. You had a calculation of 300 and something?
350 in the morning was Delhi, and 145 was Srinagar.
Well, the other day I stepped out of my house with one of those portable things, and it was 480 something.
Wow, in Srinagar?
So we've had a really bad spell.
So in October, you completed 1 year of your government. Before we get down to, there were lots of assessments and some of them very hectoring ones. But before we get to those, I just wanted to ask you, does it come off easier on your tongue now to say that you are Chief Minister of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir?
No. I find it very difficult to use the words Union Territory and Jammu and Kashmir in the same sentence.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, I hate being reminded that we are a Union Territory. And I don't know why people feel the need to constantly, and this is true even for officers in the Jammu and Kashmir government, they will often introduce themselves or me or others as belonging to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And I don't remember ever being introduced as the Chief Minister of the state of Jammu and Kashmir when I was.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't introduced as the Chief Minister of the state of Jammu and Kashmir then, why should I be introduced as the Chief Minister of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir? Unless you're trying to sort of drill it into us that we're a Union Territory. So no, it's very, very difficult to get the words Union Territory and Jammu and Kashmir in the same sentence.
You're the only person, I think, who's been Chief Minister of the state and then in the same place of the Union Territory.
Yeah, I have the misfortune of having this unique distinction in this country. Not only was I Chief Minister of a state, I was Chief Minister of a state that was different from all the others. We had the most empowered assembly. We had our own constitution, we had our own flag, and from there to now be Chief Minister of a Union Territory with far less powers than any other state chief minister would have is very difficult to reconcile oneself to.
Mr. Abdullah, there's a constant comparison being drawn between your government, and the situation with the LG and what Kejriwal's erstwhile government here in Delhi was. But the stark difference is that in your case, you have been a chief minister of a full state. And Mr. Kejriwal just had to contend with a powerful LG from day one. But, the other difference, the very big difference is that Mr. Kejriwal got into this whole power sharing arrangement with a very antagonistic approach, or at least a confrontational approach. You didn't. Yours was much more conciliatory. You've drawn lots of criticism for it as well. But what I want to ask you is, did the change of approach lead to a different outcome 1 year later? Or is it the same kind of, attrition?
Well, in terms of the relationship between the government of Jammu and Kashmir and the government of India, other than a couple of major issues on which obviously we haven't made as much progress as I would have liked, particularly on the restoration of statehood and pending that our business rules being approved, Government of India has been sort of well disposed towards the government of Jammu and Kashmir and towards towards Jammu and Kashmir. So no complaints there. Unfortunately, the same has not been true in terms of our working relationship with the Lieutenant Governor. In spite of the fact that he has on numerous occasions publicly said that he is only responsible for security and law and order, and everything else is the domain of the elected government, that has not translated on the ground. I can name institutions that should ordinarily have transferred to the elected government that haven't so far.
Can you give us some examples of things that you wanted to do but couldn't?
Well, the J&K Power Development Corporation. I am the power minister. It's a corporation that is part of the ministry, but the Lieutenant Governor is the chairman of that corporation. Shouldn't be. I was chairman of that corporation when I was chief minister. We have two universities, Jammu and Kashmir, I'll call them state universities, Baba Ghulam Shah Badshah and Islamic University of Science and Technology. The statutes of those universities meant that the chief minister was chancellor. After the elections, these universities should have transferred to the elected government. They haven't. He continues to be chancellor of those two universities. The Cultural Academy, he is chairman of the Cultural Academy, even though the culture department is with the elected government. The Director Information, he has appointed an IAS officer, even though the post is a JKAS, J&K Administrative Services cadre post. But to deny us sort of control over the information department, he has put his own person in there. And most recently and surprisingly, I am the tourism minister. Now the tourism development authorities in various places should either be headed by me or somebody nominated by me. But he continues to hold on even to tourism development authorities. He's called a meeting of the Gulmarg Tourism Development Authority on the 21st of December. Now please tell me, somebody who says he is only responsible for security and law and order, what business does he have holding a tourism development authority? It is essentially interfering in the role of the elected government.
But you just seem to make a distinction between your equation with this government at the center and your equation with the LG. Does that distinction hold, given that the LG is actually the appointee of the center?
Well, to the extent that he's doing this with their concurrence, that is a worry. But I'm drawing the distinction because in most other respects, the Government of India has actually been very, has conducted itself in a way in which they've left me with very, limited scope to complain. We are an economically disadvantaged part of the country. We don't earn as much as we spend on governance. Now, it would be very easy for the Government of India to bring my government to its knees. All they had to do was choke us of funds at the end of the year. But they actually did the opposite of that. They gave more money to my government at the end of last year than was actually part of the budget. And I have every hope and expectation that the same thing will be done this year as well. There was a scheme that post-COVID Government of India announced called the Special Assistance Scheme for Capital Expenditure for States. It wasn't made applicable to union territories. Now this was a scheme, or is a scheme, whereby you get money as an interest-free loan repayable after 50 years. So essentially it's free money for states to spend on capital investment. This wasn't available to us as a union territory. But because I asked for it, and they saw the logic of what we were asking for, they extended it to Jammu and Kashmir and then other union territories as well. So my point is that they could have been difficult with us. They could have been more difficult with us, but they haven't been. But these ticklish issues that I've pointed out, they do remain.
But in the end, these are the smaller issues. The big issue is statehood, and on that, they've kept you hanging, haven't they?
As I said, that's why I said that on the main issue of statehood, that has been, it's a matter of disappointment. We keep being told that at the appropriate time, but nobody tells us how they will assess what the appropriate time is. Tell us what the goalpost is. Tell us what we have to do to bring Jammu and Kashmir to the point where you can say that, yes, this is the appropriate time. Is the appropriate time when the BJP is in power in Jammu and Kashmir? If that's the case, then tell us. then tell us, be honest with us. Tell us that, look, until the BJP is in power in Jammu and Kashmir, statehood will not be restored.
Yeah.
Then the people of Jammu and Kashmir are free to make their decision in the next election. We're not going to bring the BJP into power in this assembly. They're going to spend this period in the opposition. But in the next assembly election, then the people are free to make the choice. But my point is that we were told, the Supreme Court was told, Parliament was told, the people of India were told that this is a three-step process. Delimitation, election, statehood.
Yeah.
2 steps have been completed. Why are we being made to wait for the 3rd step?
So is this something that you keep raising with the center? What are the kind of conversations that you're having with the center
Well,
on this?
I mean, this conversation is a continuing one. There has not been a public occasion with the Prime Minister or a senior minister of the Government of India where statehood has not been mentioned. No conversation of mine with the Prime Minister, Home Minister or other senior ministers has happened without statehood being mentioned. My 3 newly elected Rajya Sabha members from Jammu and Kashmir went and met the Union Home Minister yesterday, and one of the main things they talked about was statehood. And the sort of answer we get is, yes, it's happening, we're doing it. But again, publicly they say at the appropriate time. And I come back to the point I made earlier. Okay, fine, at the appropriate time, please define for us what is your yardstick for appropriate. So at least we have a goal to work towards. I mean, you're in a newspaper. Your goal is your circulation. You know that these are the number of newspapers you want to sell in a day on your digital platforms. That's the sort of reach you want to have. So you have your goals, you have your targets. If I have to be told that statehood at an appropriate time, then please give me a target so I can work towards it. Otherwise, it's just vague.
But I mean, the irony is that this kind of attrition that's not leading anywhere, comes after an election which saw a record turnout. So there were very great expectations. So many people, exhibited their trust in the electoral process. It was a very emotional election for you because you had lost in the 2024 election, the Lok Sabha election. And I remember that seeing videos of your campaigning for the assembly election, in which you basically you were telling the voters that my honor is in your hands.
That was one speech. That was one speech and one place, and that was particularly because it was my own constituency. But yes, I mean, it was a difficult election. It came on the back of a huge setback that I myself had gone through with the loss in the parliament election a few months earlier. So it wasn't easy. And plus, it was the first assembly election after the momentous changes of 2019. So we really had no idea how it was going to go.
And your national conference manifesto was titled Dignity, Identity, Development. And it said that it's not just a document, it's a roadmap to reclaim the dignity and honor that has been the cornerstone of our identity for generations. So given this kind of charged context, the great expectations, 1 year later, now when you look ahead, you still have 4 more years, but when you look ahead, what do you see?
Well, I hope that we will make progress on, as I said, the main issue, which is statehood. In the interim, we would like to see more done on the business rules so that areas that I highlighted for you just now can be done away with. We, unlike the Delhi Union Territory or Pondicherry, we are not governed by the Union Territory Act. We are governed by our own J&K Reorganization Act. And therefore, our situation is very different to the situation of Delhi, Pondicherry, and other union territories. So that would, for me, that would be the biggest one. And once that is done, then a whole host of these other smaller problems just disappear.
Your critics have said that you have not been aggressive enough or assertive enough vis-a-vis both the LG and the center, and that you have, in some sense, normalized the disempowerment. What would you say to this?
I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say anything. I have not been silent on any of the issues that matter. If I had to be a part of the disempowerment, then I would have sat here and smiled and told you that everything is great, there are no problems, and life is absolutely fine. The fact that I haven't done that would suggest to you that it is not business as usual, and I am not silent on the issues that matter or are of concern to people.
You've always made the distinction between your relationship with the Government of India and your relationship with the BJP, that there is a difference between the two. 1 year later, is it easier or is it still difficult to explain this distinction in Srinagar?
No, absolutely not. It's not difficult at all to explain the distinction, and people see it. They saw in the recent by-elections, in the Jammu seat, we were the only political party that put up a candidate against the BJP in that election. Similarly, we are the only party that takes the BJP head-on on issues both domestic, J&K related or at the national level, and we will continue to do so.
So, you say that you are dealing with the Government of India, but now the Government of India is of the BJP, which has a certain project of nationalism. It involves a transformation, in fact, of the nature of nationalism. It involves a particular view of the representation of minorities. This is a government that doesn't have a Muslim MP. They now talk about, de-Macaulayization, the decolonization. So do you see these transformations as having struck deep? Do you worry about what it would mean for Indian pluralism?
I think all of us should worry about what these sort of things mean. An India where an elected chief minister can pull off the face covering of a young woman on a whim and not face any...
You're talking of Nitish Kumar.
I'm talking about Nitish Kumar, and not face any major blowback is deeply distressing. Nobody should do that. Would he do that to a woman who was covering her face with a gungat? Would he go to, let's say somewhere in Rajasthan or Haryana and do that to a woman there? But he felt very comfortable doing it to a Muslim woman in his own state. I think it's symbolic of the transformation that you're talking about, and it's not a good thing. The fact that an entire population feels disempowered because they have no representation at all in the treasury benches, much less in the Government of India, is again something that we should sort of be. It should be something that concerns us.
This hyper-nationalism, it's also now visible in cinema. There was a film called Kashmir Files. There is a film playing right now called Dhurandhar, which is also supposed to be on the same lines. Have you seen any of these films?
I haven't seen either, and truth be told, I don't intend to see either of them. That said, I must be honest, the first movie didn't do very well in the Valley. The second one, and I won't pronounce it because I'll struggle with the name, but the second one seems to be doing roaring business. And I spot Vijay Dharsab in the audience. He has the only multiplex in the Valley, and he's nodding away, saying that his box office is doing great with the second movie. So clearly the audience in Kashmir, even if it is a propaganda movie, is quite happy to be entertained by it.
So, Mr. Abdullah, the post-370 abrogation movement, now it has been replaced by a constitutional anomaly, if you look at it through the lens of federalism. They did away with what they called asymmetrical federalism, but we don't know what's in place after that. In another sense, you have actually pointed out many times that whether it was separatism or it was unemployment or it was Pakistan's impact in Kashmir, the doing away of Article 370 was supposed to be this one-stop solution, and it hasn't turned out like that. But I want to ask you something else. I want to ask you, among the people, do you think the people of Kashmir have moved on from that August 2019 moment? And if so, what is your sense? Is there a sullen acceptance? Is there more than that? What do you see among the people of the post-370 moment?
Look, I mean, if by acceptance you mean that people aren't coming out on the streets every day and protesting against it, that's true, they're not. But does that mean that they have now sort of willingly accepted the changes that have been made? No. If they had, then perhaps the BJP and the parties associated with the BJP would have done significantly better in the assembly elections last year. The fact that the seats in the valley went primarily to the National Conference or its ally, the Congress, and a handful of seats to the PDP, all of us vehemently opposed.
But the BJP posted its best ever performance, 29 seats.
No, they're all in Jammu.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in Jammu. Jammu has been a lot more accepting of the changes. Even there, while you won't hear voices about 370, you will definitely hear voices about statehood and the disempowerment of people there. No, but I'm drawing the acceptance that you are looking for is more from the valley, but it isn't there.
No. So how would you characterize the people's mood?
To suggest that there is one uniform thought process across all the people of the valley would be to simplify a very complex situation. So, no, I mean, there is that constituency that doesn't accept Jammu and Kashmir as a part of India, period. Regardless of 370, no 370. Now, that's one part of it. Then there's the constituency that quite happily identifies itself with the BJP. They have a handful of office bearers, people who are happy to be seen at their programs and wave their flags. And then there's a large group in the middle that is deeply unhappy with the change that was made, but also know that there is no short-term solution to what has happened. And the only thing they can do is hope for the best in the days ahead.
Do you worry about radicalization?
Well, I think radicalization in certain quarters is a reality. We saw it play out in the blast in Delhi. But to have a hyper-nationalist agenda in the rest of the country, or to now, I mean, look at the way in which the BJP reacts to things in Jammu and Kashmir. You have a medical college that is part of the Mata Vaishno Devi University. Now, admission to that medical college is simply on the basis of the NEET exam.
Yes.
There is no other way to get admission. Now, out of 50 students, 40 plus turned out to be Muslims, 1 Sardar, and I think 6 or 7 Hindus. The BJP were up in arms that ye mata ka paisa hai, in logon pe kyun lagega. Now, if you're going to now start deciding medical college seats admissions on the basis of religion,
and it's not a minority institution.
It's not.
Yeah.
If they had taken minority status, nobody would have questioned this. But they didn't. They signed on to the NEET exam. These children qualified on the basis of their merit. But you want their seats to be decided on religious grounds. I mean, look at the storm yesterday or day before yesterday on the composition of the football team for the Santosh Trophy, because the majority of the players selected for it happened to be Kashmiri Muslims. Now an inquiry has been ordered to determine whether the team was selected on the correct basis. I can assure you, if the majority of the team players had been non-Muslim, none of this would have happened. So when you have incidents like this, how can you expect that there will be a complete absence of any sort of reaction to that? There is a reaction, and that reaction manifests itself in an element of radicalization amongst a section of the population.
You mentioned the Red Fort blast. So after the Red Fort blast, there was a bulldozer action against, the family home of the suspect. You spoke against it. In fact, the Supreme Court has spoken against what is called bulldozer justice. This kind of collective punishment and instant punishment. But also after the Red Fort blasts, there has been anecdotal evidence and there have been reports about Kashmiris, now even educated Kashmiris, finding it even more difficult to find houses on rent in other parts of the country. So does this worry you after the Red Fort blast? You think that has been a setback?
I wish this was just a reaction to the Red Fort blast, because then it would be a more recent phenomenon, but it's not. We've been hearing about these sort of things for many years now. I have nephews who are studying outside of Jammu and Kashmir. I'm not going to say where, but they've struggled to find PG accommodation and stuff like that. I know for a fact that as part of the NCR territory, one city issued an order asking for Muslim employees to be identified in the businesses or corporations that are operating there. So, I mean, and the order was, actually the wording of the order was even more worrying. It said foreign nationals and Kashmiri Muslims. So you're effectively saying that foreign nationals and Kashmiri Muslims are considered in the same category. So you're pushing an entire community to the sidelines, where the actual guilty party are a handful. And you talked about bulldozer justice. I mean, where does it work? I mean, you did the same thing after the Baisaran attack earlier this year. You went out and started blowing up homes. If I'm not mistaken, about 10 homes were blown up. Okay. Subsequently, you found out that there was no Kashmiri involvement in that attack, barring one person who helped them. They were all from across the border. But you quite happily went and blew up 10, 12 houses. Now, those are 10, 12 people. If they are further radicalized, if one of them goes across and gets training, whose fault is it?
After the Pulwama attack, you held a special session of the assembly.
After Baisaran, yeah.
After the Pulwama,
Pahalgam,
Pahalgam. You held a special session of the assembly. That was an unprecedented step. The whole day people stood up and expressed solidarity with the victims and their families who came from different parts of the country. You yourself stood up and I think you recited the names of each and every one of the victims. Why did you do that? Why did you feel it necessary at that time to hold that session?
It was a dastardly attack. It was an attack in which you lined people up, singled them out on the basis of their religion, and then gunned them down in cold blood. How can you not how does your blood not boil? And I wanted the people in the rest of the country to know that this is not something that the people of Jammu and Kashmir identify with in any way, shape, size or form. Before our assembly session, the people had come out of their own and were expressing solidarity with the victims. The assembly session was unprecedented, but the reaction of the common people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly the valley and the mountain areas of Jammu, was also unprecedented. You had people coming out and lighting candles. You had people coming out and saying, look, this was not in our name. We don't support incidents like this. So I think our assembly session was just a continuation of that.
So with bulldozer action, etc., do you think that moment has been frittered away?
If I were to say that, it would sound almost transactional. We didn't do it because we expected anything in return. It wasn't we are going to protest, so you reward us with something. So we did what we felt was right. God forbid something like that were ever to happen again, we would do it again, regardless of whether your bulldozers come after that and blow up our homes or whatever. Because these sort of things cannot be weighed in terms of, okay, I've done this, now what will you do for me? There are a lot of other, and that's why in the assembly, when people started talking about statehood, I said, look, this is not the time to talk about statehood. There'll be other occasions. But that wasn't the occasion to start trying to transact business. So, no.
So you're part of the India Alliance, but you've been very candid about, your disappointments
Yeah,
with
here's where I start getting into trouble.
So you have, spoken about the fact that there are no regular meetings being held. You've spoken about the fact that I think during the Bihar election, you said that Tejasvi should have been declared the chief minister candidate much earlier than he
But
was.
I also attach the caveat that coming from Jammu and Kashmir, I am not sort of well clued up with the intricacies of Bihar politics, but as a interested observer, it's just something that I felt
But you've
should
said
have been
even
done.
more. You've said
I've
at
said
one
too
point,
much at many points
at
in
one
time.
point you said that it's on ventilator support, the India Alliance.
I've said that oftentimes we find ourselves in the ICU.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the most recent is the vote chori campaign that the Congress seems to
Let
be.
me
Yeah.
I did not say that the vote chori is not the agenda of the India bloc. I said that particular public meeting was a Congress meeting. It wasn't an India bloc meeting. And the Congress, as any constituent of a grouping or a bloc, is free to choose its own political issues. My political philosophy and ideology stems around restoration of autonomy to Jammu and Kashmir, about what happened on the 5th of August 2019. Now, these are issues that none of my India bloc partners will share at this point in time, barring perhaps the DMK and possibly TMC. But that doesn't stop me from having my own political ideology and issues. And therefore, if the Congress wants to make a public campaign out of vote chori and the SIR, that's great. Why not? Go ahead.
But where do you stand on vote chori?
In the past, I've drawn the distinction. If by vote chori you're going to allege that the machines are fiddled with, I have never been a supporter of that. And that actually puts me in a very awkward position at home, because my father is a vehement believer in the machine chor hai. Every time we lose an election, it's always the machine's fault. My belief is a little different. I believe that we should own the defeat and then work towards correcting it. If we blame the machine, then nothing will ever go right. But then with my father, and when he listens to this, my father is also from that generation that believes that everything that comes on WhatsApp is the gospel truth. And must never be questioned or denied. But that's neither here nor there. So no, I mean, if vote chori means the machines, then no. But if vote chori means sort of tinkering around with the election process, messing around with voter lists, messing around with boundaries of constituencies, then yes, we have a problem. Take, for example, the delimitation exercise in Jammu and Kashmir done before the assembly elections. Clearly done with a view to benefiting one political party, the BJP. The way in which the seats were distributed, 6 for Jammu, 1 for the valley, but within Jammu, the way in which they were positioned in places where constituencies were gerrymandered, clearly an exercise done to benefit one party. I'll give you an example of one district, Kishtwar, in the Chenab Valley. Pre-delimitation, Kishtwar had 2 assembly constituencies, both Muslim majority. Post-delimitation, Kishtwar has 3 constituencies, of which 2 are Hindu majority now, only 1 is Muslim majority. So essentially, you moved the Hindu vote, you redrew the boundaries so that the Hindu vote was moved into constituencies, and you changed the entire shape of them. Net result, what? Kishtwar district, 2 seats go to the BJP, 1 goes against the BJP. Surprise, surprise. Which were the seats the BJP won? Both the seats in which you created a Hindu majority vote. So this is what then when you say vote chori, I say absolutely. The Election Commission needs to explain how these things can happen. I mean, how voters suddenly disappear from voter lists.
So for the Congress in this whole campaign of vote chori has squarely targeted the Election Commission. They are basically saying that the Election Commission is in cahoots with the Modi government to steal the elections. At the Ramlila rally just recently, the slogan was vote chor, gaddi chhod. And from the stage, Priyanka Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi recited the names of the 3 election commissioners, basically, and said that, you know, when a Congress government comes, there will be retribution. There will be a retroactive law. There will be, we'll come for you. Do you agree with this, this style and the content of this whole campaign that the Congress is conducting?
Look, I mean, you're up against a government that uses these bodies to its advantage. How can you not take them on? The Election Commission is supposedly an independent body. It owes an answer to the people who have concerns. Address those concerns. I mean, Rahul in that same rally said that he had had 4 press conferences with detailed data and didn't receive an answer to a single one of the main points that he raised. I mean, clearly, I mean, there's no smoke without fire. Now, how large a fire it is, that is debatable.
Yeah.
But clearly something is not right.
But there are 2 aspects here. I mean, the Election Commission there's a conduct of the Election Commission. The fact that when the Election Commission talks to the opposition, it talks with a certain disrespect. That's evident, you know, and that it has, in the recent past, taken decisions which seem to be taking their cue from the ruling party. But the second aspect is, how does the main party of the opposition frame its criticism of the Election Commission? Do you think calling out the names of the election commissioners from the stage in front of a crowd, you know, is the way?
Look, I'm not going to sit here and poke holes into either what Rahul said or what Priyanka said. I'm not even going to tell you whether I disagree or I don't disagree. I think I owe it to them that if I do disagree, I should first tell them before I make
Have
that
you told
disagreement.
them?
That's, I mean,
Yeah.
if I do disagree, I think it would only be fair that I would share my disagreement with them first. But let me just say that in these unusual times, when every institution is effectively weaponized in favor of the government and against opposition parties, sometimes you have to do what hasn't been done before. I mean, you can't hold Rahul and Priyanka to a standard higher than the standard you hold the government to.
To get back to the India alliance, where do you think the obstacles lie in it being a more coherent alliance than it is?
I think the lack of clarity as to why we are there. Because I've heard confusing and conflicting sort of views on that. There's one view that we are only there for the general election, and that's it. In which case, then we should disband after the general election and reform closer to the next one. But if we are there in the interim also, then we need to make it work when elections take place, even at the state level. But we don't seem to be able to do that. Seat sharing talks within the India alliance, and I know this because I've been part of one in Jammu and Kashmir, the election campaign wasn't as difficult as the seat sharing talks. I mean, I lost more hair in the conversation with the Congress than I lost in selecting my own candidates and then in campaigning for them to win. It shouldn't be that difficult if our bloc, the India bloc, is there for the near future. But if we are only there for the parliament elections, then let's agree to that and then fight our own assembly elections separately.
Do you think there is an existential crisis for the opposition today? And do you think...
No, why? I mean, this is an opposition that has 100+ members in the parliament. We have a leader of the opposition both in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha. Yes, we occasionally lose the odd assembly election. But I wouldn't call it an existential crisis. I mean, these are difficult times, but we'll come back.
if you were to play a larger national role, what is it that you would do differently than
I
what-
wouldn't play a larger national role. I'm well aware of my limitations, and my limitations quite happily keep me confined to the politics of Jammu and Kashmir. I share unsolicited opinions and feedbacks at places like this. More often than not, they either get me into trouble or I go home and think, why the hell did I say that in the first place? But no, I have no nationalist aspirations other than keeping Jammu and Kashmir on an even keel, which I think is in the national interest anyway.
So as someone who could be described as one of Macaulay's children, how do you look at this whole decolonization campaign that that the BJP has now launched? The Prime Minister has spoken of it a lot, and this seems to be a theme that they're going to be developing.
Look, this was a country that welcomed everybody. We made it sort of the cornerstone of what we talked about, what we were proud about. I think somewhere that India still exists. We need to protect that. There was a reason why a Muslim majority Jammu and Kashmir chose not to go with Pakistan. Let's not forget what that India was. I think it's important to remember that there was an India that was attractive enough for the only Muslim majority state to become a part of this country, something that Pakistan has never forgotten, never forgiven us for. I think we shouldn't put that at risk.
And with Pakistan, how do you see the arc, the long arc? Because Kashmir, there will be consequences of whichever direction the relationship takes between India and Pakistan. The direct consequences are in Kashmir. So after Operation Sindoor, now when you look ahead, there is a freeze right now. There is no dialogue. What do you want to happen there?
Well, when incidents like Delhi keep happening, it's difficult to imagine a normalization of relations. And when the army chief keeps giving himself more power in Pakistan, who is the government of India to talk to anyway? I mean, even if I were tomorrow to advocate a dialogue between the two countries, please tell me what purpose would be served by Prime Minister Modi talking to Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif? None whatsoever. All power clearly rests with Rawalpindi. I've always said that at the end of the day, dialogue is the way forward. Dialogue requires a conducive environment. That conducive environment, it's not just the onus of India to create conditions conducive for a dialogue. Pakistan has a huge responsibility, whether it's making sure things like Baisar and Pahalgam don't happen, making sure things like Delhi don't happen, making sure that those responsible for 2611 are brought back to this country and are brought to justice. These are things you can't just wish away. So yes, I have always been an advocate for dialogue, but in creating conditions conducive for dialogue, the onus doesn't just rest on the government of India.
In 1998, you were 28 when you became, I think, the youngest MP. So
I wasn't the youngest MP. I think that privilege still in that assembly went to Mr. Omar Kapang, who was briefly, if you remember, MOS Tourism in Vajpayee Saab's first government. But I was probably the youngest minister in Mr. Vajpayee's government the next time around.
So a lot has changed.
Well, yeah.
People have changed. Audiences have changed. Do you think politicians haven't kept pace?
No, why would you say that? I think we've kept pace.
Does it worry you? There's AI now. In this year, in fact, I think it was Albania which had an AI minister, a minister.
Yeah.
I think her name was Diela.
Yeah, she had a very difficult to pronounce name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you see a future where even politicians can be replaced?
Well, the way in which I understand AI has started lying now, I think AI is a fit place for politicians. And politicians are AI is a fit replacement as well. Because I understand now, AI no longer tells you that it doesn't know the answer. It invents facts so that it can give you the answer. We politicians do that as well. You will hardly ever find a politician asked a question and the politician will tell you, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that. Because if we don't know anything about it, we'll waffle on and tell you something or the other, whether you've asked us that or not. So I think as politicians, we should worry that if AI becomes so good at telling fibs, our jobs might be a bit threatened.
I'll ask one more question and then we'll open it to the audience. So in this age of increasing polarization, does it worry you that the middle ground is not being occupied or claimed or created?
No, I think there are still a lot of political parties that are holding on to that middle ground. Most of them these days are constituents of the India bloc. We may lose the odd election, but at least we've not surrendered that space. At least there are enough of us, top to bottom, who are still fighting to keep that India, the one that I talked about, that idea of India alive, even in these difficult times.
We'll open it to the audience now. Can I ask Mr. Vijay Dhar to ask the first question, please? No.
I think
Can somebody get the mic
is
to
behind.
him? Yeah.
I think you've answered most of the questions that I was thinking of asking. And I must appreciate that you were very honest. How much trouble you'll have at home and otherwise, that's to be seen. However, to digress a little, I have a lot of interest in education. Now, Jammu and Kashmir declared education compulsory in 1951. And after 70 years, we are still struggling to have an elementary teacher training program. That's one. Secondly, what is your vision of the education in future? I'm not talking about 5 years, I'm talking about 3 years. In the next 3 years, what would you do in education and how will you cover up the gap in technology? Because we don't have trained people there. So we have to train that also.
Well, I think your point about teacher training is well taken, and it's something that we're actively trying to address. The technology gap is also a reality. But fortunately, with the way in which technology is becoming more accessible, cheaper, and the way in which now almost the entire Jammu and Kashmir is now 5G connected, it's made it easier for us to take technology into areas that were hitherto inaccessible to us. What would I like to see in 3.5 years that I've got left? I'd like to see government schools come up to a level where parents would willingly pull their children out of private schools, and no disrespect to yours, I think it will still remain the preeminent school there, but where parents would willingly pull their children out of private schools and put them into government schools. Today it's the reverse. I would like to see more private participation in higher education. Today in Jammu and Kashmir, barring 1 or 2 institutions, higher education is solely the preserve of the government. We have no private universities, hardly, I think 1 or 2 private engineering colleges, 2 private medical colleges. I think there is a big opportunity available to us to bring in more private sector players into education so that the field opens up.
So we've got 11 universities in our state. Barring Agriculture University, no other universities produced a paper, whether it's the fault of the government.
Well, I think the Kashmir University and Jammu University would perhaps vehemently argue with your sort of belief that no papers have been produced. A lot of work has been done in terms of research, in terms of patents, in terms of employment generation. You know and I know we have a huge problem in Jammu and Kashmir in unemployment. And unemployment is not going to be solved through government jobs. So we are working very closely with the universities to try and do more to create a culture of entrepreneurship in Jammu and Kashmir, linked to what you said, research, papers, and patents.
That was a nice way of digressing as a good politician. Thank you so much.
Well, as they say, you ask the question that you want, I will give the answer that I want to give.
Mr. Manishankar Iyer.
Mr. Chief Minister, I am well aware that Ladakh is no longer your responsibility as Chief Minister. But what do you have to say about the horrible things that are happening to Sonam, Wangchuk, and to the people of Ladakh generally? Do you have a view on that?
Well, I certainly have a view on that. I think most sensible people would have a view on what is happening in Ladakh and would be concerned by it. The fact that a hitherto very peaceful place was pushed to the point where in the summer they were out on the streets and setting fire to government property would tell you just how badly Ladakh has been handled. Now, Ladakh wasn't an area that was unhappy with the changes of 5th August 2019. Kargil was silently resentful. Leh actually came out and celebrated. They believed that they had got everything that they had wanted. Buyer's remorse set in, but that's another matter. The fact is that Govt of India promised them far more than they've delivered. They want protection for their cultural identity, for their lands, for their jobs, which they still haven't got. And this was after it was promised to them. So I think they have grounds for being disappointed. The way in which Sonam Wangchuk is being treated is also abysmal. I mean, the fact that you've parked him in a prison in Udaipur, in Jodhpur, and you're not even bringing him to court is I mean, it just shows how the power of the government. And this is a man who was actually with you celebrating everything that you did in Ladakh after the 5th of August 2019. Until recently, there was hardly a government function where he wasn't present. He was your brand ambassador, so to speak, of the changes and the developments in Leh. And to push him to the point where today you've locked him up in jail under draconian laws is terrible. I only hope that the promises made to Ladakh are kept the same way I hope that the promises made to us are kept.
Prashant Solomon, please.
No?
Okay. Hello, Mr. Abdullah. I have a question that is very different from, I think, a lot of things that we've talked about today. Primarily, I want to ask you a question about the economy of Jammu and Kashmir, because I think as economies develop anywhere in the world, that is where we see jobs and all kinds of things. So, like in the next 3 years, which are the areas in the economy of Jammu Kashmir that you feel that interests you to develop further, things like real estate, things like IT parks, things like, to provide more jobs and to also just change the story of Jammu Kashmir from something that's always focused on certain areas. But I think that as a state, I'd be very interested to know what you believe is the area that the industries and the different fields that you feel that interest you in developing Jammu Kashmir further.
Well, we need to focus on areas in which we can have a competitive advantage. Tourism obviously puts us at an advantageous place, but tourism is unreliable, as we've seen this year. The setbacks both at the beginning of the year and more recently have sort of hit the economy really hard. But we will continue to focus on pushing tourism because tourism is not confined just to a handful of areas. Actually, the spread across Jammu and Kashmir is enormous. So that would be one area. I'm also acutely aware of our limitations. We are not a resource-rich place in terms of natural resources. We're also not a very big market. So for me to try and attract investment into manufacturing, where you need to bring the raw material in and transport the finished product out, is pointless because you won't do it without a subsidy, which means you're only there so long as the subsidy is there. The moment the subsidy is gone, you're gone as well. So the areas we would be looking at are tourism, agriculture, horticulture, dairy. Dairy is a major area where I believe there are enormous opportunities in Jammu and Kashmir. It would surprise you to know that in terms of milk production, we are actually almost self-sufficient. But we only process about 6% of our dairy production. 94% of our milk goes into the market unprocessed. Now, if you compare this to Gujarat, Gujarat processes about 86 or 87% of its dairy production. So dairy is an area where the raw material is available and the market is available. You just need to come in and set up the processing unit. So that would be an area we are looking at. Electronics, linked to that, of course, would be, you talked about IT parks. My only worry with IT parks at this point in time, and that actually comes from a question that was asked earlier, is with artificial intelligence. More and more you find that these business process outsourcing jobs are being farmed out to artificial intelligence. Call centers you've seen recently, TCS and others, are actually downsizing rather than adding more people. So I'm not sure what sort of long-term prospects are there for a new entrant. I mean, the established ones like Pune, I mean, I'm talking not the big ones, the tier 2, tier 3 cities, Mohalli, Pune, places like that. They're already here, they won't have a problem. But new entrants might find the going a little difficult. But in terms of manufacturing, high value, low volume products that are linked to resources available there are areas that are ripe for investment.
The gentleman there, can we take the mic to him, please?
Good evening, sir. Sir, my name is Kuldeep, and I am a teacher. I would like to ask question that how do you assess the central government initiative in strengthening security, infrastructure, and investment in past few years in J&K?
You know, security is in front of you. You saw what happened this year, and you saw what happened in Delhi a few weeks ago. So if after that you need me to tell you how much the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir has improved, I mean, I'll probably end up wasting your time. The fact that never in the past 35 years of trouble have we seen an attack of the nature that we saw in Pahalgam earlier this year. So that's the security situation. In terms of investment, I'm still looking for it. I heard, and again this was mentioned in the question, about how the removal of Article 370 will lead to a flurry of investment into Jammu and Kashmir. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any more investment than we normally would have seen. I mean, it's this misplaced belief that Jammu and Kashmir had no manufacturing at all until the 5th of August 2019. But that's not true. You have this entire belt of manufacturing right from Jammu to Vijaypur to Samba to Kathua, which have large industrial units that are functioning and doing all right. Pre-militancy, Kashmir was actually, particularly Srinagar, was developing as a hub for manufacturing of electronics industry. It was a victim not of 370, it was a victim of militancy. So, I mean, let's just say that a lot was promised, but the delivery has left a lot to be desired.
If I could ask a question here. You know, these two situations, restoration of statehood and restoration of special status, you've always made a distinction between the two. You have a cabinet resolution and an assembly resolution on each of these two. But I think your general sense has been that we can talk about restoration of statehood because that's what Parliament has promised, that's what Supreme Court has been promised. But restoration of special status is something that is not realistic with this government in place. Do you envisage a time when this government is not in place, maybe, that restoration of special status could come back onto the front
Well,
burner?
I'd like to believe it can come back onto the table and be talked about. Why not? Why should we assume that the situation we're in today is a situation that will persist in perpetuity? Things change, situations change, moods change. Why could that not change? I fully understand that today the mood might not be for that, but who knows?
No, the mood where at the center.
No, I'm saying the mood generally. The mood generally amongst the electorate, amongst the people, amongst the intelligentsia, amongst the opinion
In
makers.
Kashmir or
No,
outside
outside.
Kashmir?
In
Outside.
Kashmir. Look, in Kashmir, they'd grab it tomorrow if they could get it. But they know they're not going to get it tomorrow. I'm talking about generally. There were a lot of, even in the audience here, a lot of grudging shaking of the heads rather than enthusiastic nods.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're used to that. But look, our job is to talk about the issue.
But you don't talk about restoration of special status.
Who doesn't?
You don't.
You
You
didn't
talk
ask
about
me.
statehood.
You didn't ask me.
No, in your other interviews.
No, every time I'm asked about it, I talk about it. In fact, sometimes I volunteer
So
it.
tell us about the restoration of special status. How
What would you
important
like
is
to know?
No, how important is that? Are you raising it in your conversations with the center?
What
This
would be the
center?
purpose of raising it in a conversation with them? Look, I am not given to fooling people. And I've always made this point that it is pointless asking the people who took it away from us to give it back to us, because at no point have they indicated any willingness for that. That said, we are not silent on the issue. I'll point only to yesterday's speech made by my Rajya Sabha member in the parliament yesterday, in which he was very forceful about the fact that we don't agree with what was done, and we will continue to raise this issue.
So what are the conditions under which you think this could happen? The restoration of special status, I'm talking of, not of statehood.
Well, obviously, it will require a change of government in the center. It will require a government that is better disposed towards us than the current one.
But if your sense is that it's the electorate also, it's not just the government, it's a sort
Look,
of...
electorates also change their minds. If electorates never changed their minds, you would have one government that never went away. People change their minds, thinkings change. 370 was made an issue for the country. It can be unmade as well. It just depends how you go about it.
Is this on the India Alliance's agenda?
Nope. No, it isn't. Let's be realistic. It isn't. And that's fine. I fully understand in the circumstances that we are operating under today, I would not expect Rahul Gandhi to stand up and say he supports this. He wouldn't, and I don't expect him to. I'd like him to win an election first before I can have this conversation with him. And in this current environment, in this current mood, he's not going to win if he stands up and says that. So I'm nothing if not realistic. I think this realism also gets me into trouble because sometimes we politicians are supposed to be more idealistic. I'm sort of more grounded in reality. So be it.
The lady there, please, and also the gentleman there. Then we come to the lady here.
My name is Qurban Ali, and Mr. Chief Minister, I have two questions. Recently, you said there was a statement of yours that if the statehood is not granted, you will resign. So, is there any deadline for that?
I didn't say that. I said there's a finite timeline to everything, and there would be a finite limit to my patience as well. I didn't quite put it as categorically as you did. I am trying to teach myself to be a little less categorical than I used to be. Possibly 10 years ago, I would have used exactly those words, but I tend to find that your words come back and bite you in the proverbial a little later. So it's better to leave a little room for maneuver. So what I have said is that everything has a finite limit, and my patience with regard to statehood also has one. And you can read into that whatever you like.
Okay, my second question is, in the recent Rajya Sabha election, there were allegations that you are having some kind of understanding with the BJP. Is there any truth in it?
Look, allegations are a dime a dozen. They are the easiest thing to make. It's even more easy when you don't have to prove them. The fact that we won 3 seats, including defeating the BJP in 2 seats, how would that be an understanding? An understanding would have been if we had done this without an election. If I had quietly gone to the Union Home Minister and said, Sir, election mat karaiye, aap ek le lijiye, hum 3 le lete hain, chup kariye. We had an election. We lost a seat, and we lost it in spite of trying our best to win it. We lost it because a handful of independents, in spite of giving letters of support to my government, went and voted in the other direction. A party with a few MPs committed their support to us, and then I think 1 or 2 of them decided to do a deal behind the scenes. So these things happen in politics. They happen because, unfortunately, part of the Rajya Sabha election process is still a bit opaque. While parties like mine have to show their vote to an election agent, independents don't have to. I think there should be a system whereby you actually have this election open. Why should you not know who an MLA voted for? You should know who the PDP voted for, who the Congress voted for, who the National Conference voted for, and who the independents voted for. Why should they hide it? At least this will do away with then all these allegations of money changing hands or this sort of thing that we did a secret deal. Let me assure you, no secret deals have been done, and I would be the last person to do a secret deal with the BJP. If I have to do something, I'll do it openly, and then I'll face the consequences. But I won't do things secretly.
I'm Dr. Tina Sharma, Public Policy Advisor to Central Government. I have 2 questions, quick questions. One is the policy focused. What are the legals and political constraints preventing Chief Minister, you of course, reclaiming executive powers from the LG? First. Secondly, I want to ask you, how's the administration navigating way through, the LG powers after MHA recent changes and the,
Well, unfortunately,
JNK cabinet?
Unfortunately, there haven't been any recent changes. We are hoping there will be changes, and our business rules that we have sent will be cleared. Now, what is stopping us from getting executive power back from the Lieutenant Governor? Exactly that, the fact that he's a Lieutenant Governor. Every proposal must be cleared by him. Every cabinet decision goes to him for approval before it's implemented. The cabinet passed a decision to modify the percentages of reservation within various categories. That proposal is still pending approval before the Lieutenant Governor. It's a decision that was taken by the state, by the JNK Council of Ministers. So what stops us is the fact that there is an asymmetrical sort of allocation of power between the elected government and the unelected government.
I'm sorry, but you only quoted that land and order is with them. They
Yeah.
have more. The LG has more powers now in JNK. LG has more powers beyond law and order in JNK.
That's exactly my problem, no? That's my problem. That actually the distribution of power is clear. His responsibility is the central services, IAS, IPS, etc., and law and order. Not the universities, not the Gulmarg Development Authority, not the Cultural Academy, not the Director Information, not so many other things. His responsibility is law and order. Confine yourself. I don't chair meetings of security, do I? I don't go to a district and demand to be told what the security situation is. I find out what the security situation is the way you do. I pick up my phone and see what's been posted on Twitter.
My rights, I go to court. The final way is the court. Why are you not?
I'm sorry. The final way is not the court.
So that's the only place you seek justice. Many other governments.
So basically you're saying I have no hope of getting justice from the government
No,
of
I'm
India.
not saying that. I'm saying that you're not, as a chief minister, you have all the rights, but you're not exercising. There could be something behind it, sir. I'm doubting. I'm doubting you.
Look, you're an advisor of the government of India. You would doubt. I don't expect any different. I I can't correct the perception of somebody who has arrived here having already made up their minds. If you were ready to have an open conversation, we would have an open conversation, but we'll save that for another day.
Yeah, hi, I'm Karthik Seth. I'm an advocate by profession. Just wanted to understand, with regard to Article 370, there was a PIL which was filed, eventually dismissed. Has the state of Jammu and Kashmir, though I understand the Lieutenant Governor again has to approve, etc., have you thought about a review? If you have filed a review, are you pressing that review petition before
Actually,
the Honorable
a
Supreme
review
Court?
was filed and the review was dismissed.
And no curative as well?
Look, and we're well aware of where this will go. Look, it'll be fought in the public domain, it'll be fought in the political domain. Let's not forget that in the past, the same Supreme Court actually upheld Article 370 on 3 separate occasions. Then the mood changed and the views of the court changed. Possibly going ahead, the mood will change again.
Just a follow-up question. Do you see your mood changing towards the Government of India at any point of time?
With regard to what?
With regard to your forceful assertion on Article 370?
No, why? I mean, why would that be necessary? There was a gentleman.
There's a gentleman here. Yeah, here.
Thanks a lot for a very candid information on the current state of J&K. My question is very simple, and that is that today, I mean, rightly or not so rightly, we are basically dependent on, we means J&K is basically dependent on the tourism as an industry.
Actually, sorry, I mean, let me interrupt you there.
No.
Actually not, sir.
No, so my
So let
question
me
is,
finish, let me correct something and then you can make your question. Tourism actually is fourth in terms of our contribution to our SGDP. We are actually, number one is agriculture, horticulture, then industry, then tourism. So this mistaken belief that actually tourism is the only driving force of J&K's economy. Tourism is actually far below. It is horticulture and agriculture that keeps J&K's economy ticking over.
I agree. My question is a little further, and that is as to what efforts are being done to promote other sectors than the tourism alone. What efforts have been made by the state government in last 12 months, which are beyond what is going on, and how much support are you getting from the central government in promoting areas other than tourism? And basically speaking, how are you addressing the employment position also? One is, of course, improving the state of economy of the state, and the second is the employment.
Well, we've recently, a few months ago, launched a new scheme called Mission Yuva, which is designed to sort of develop an atmosphere or an ecosystem of entrepreneurship, which is supported by government money in terms of seed capital. We've tied up with banks to make loans more easily available. We have registered, if I'm not mistaken, at the last count, more than 80,000 young unemployed people who have come forward to form part of this scheme. At last count, we had disbursed more than 850 crores in terms of seed capital money to youngsters who have set up units and have started employing people. And let me tell you that this is only the 4th month of the scheme. So in 4 months, we've disbursed about 700 crores, and that number keeps going up. So that's in regard to entrepreneurship, so that joblessness is reduced. Tourism is an important part, as I mentioned earlier, because of the spread of tourism. But it's not our singular focus. We are paying a lot of attention to agriculture and horticulture. We had a scheme for the Holistic Agriculture Development Program, I inherited it. I'm not going to claim that I was the architect of it. I inherited it, but we've grown it. We've strengthened it. We're actually looking now we're actually looking at in the year ahead, giving universal coverage for crop damage in agriculture and horticulture. Because one of the main problems we face in both these sectors is the vagaries of weather. I talked about this dry spell. Just before that, we had a huge problem with floods, which damaged a lot of crops. So focused attention on agriculture and horticulture and value addition. It's very, production will happen, but unless you build value into the production, you're not doing justice to the production that's available to you. So there's very singular focus on value addition into agriculture and horticulture, manufacturing in the areas where it is viable. The viability, as I said, stretches from Jammu to Kathua, the border of Punjab on Jammu side. Areas around Srinagar, there's a place called Lassipura in Pulwama, where there is an industrial base that is developing. So we're hoping to grow more industry in those areas. And there's a youngster at the back after that.
Sorry, I know nothing about politics. But I've been to Kashmir about 7 or 8 times. It's Ghulam Rasool Santosh, the artist, who started the artist camp in Gandharbal
Yeah.
many, many years ago in the mid-60s. And I had attended the camp. And many eminent artists of India had gone there and done the paintings. And I talked to your father many times regarding this, to set up a museum. Nothing to do with politics, not economics at all, but just talking about, would you like to revive the artist camp, which has been stopped for a very long time? Thank you.
Well, we'd be happy to support an initiative. I'm not sure it should be purely government driven, because when it is, then these things never really take off the way they should. But if there is somebody from within the artist community who is interested in starting or restarting this artists camp, then my government would be more than happy to throw its weight behind that for whatever logistical support and help that we can provide.
Yeah, the lady here. Yeah.
Evening, sir. I'm Rajeshwari. A few years ago, I was working with Niti Aayog, and as part of the Aspirational Districts program, which is a central government scheme, I had the opportunity to visit Kupwara and Baramulla, two districts along the line of control. It was a monitoring and evaluation exercise covering healthcare, education, financial inclusion, and infrastructure connectivity. Two challenges stood out very clearly during my fieldwork. One, of course, was the persistent security context, and the second was the complexity of last mile service delivery in such sensitive and remote regions. So, with nearly 8 to 10 districts in Jammu and Kashmir located along the international border, what is your long term vision for delivering and sustaining development to these border districts?
I think the most important thing we can do to the border districts is actually improve their connectivity. Connectivity there is very poor, both physical connectivity in terms of the road network and communication connectivity. If both these things get addressed, last mile delivery will automatically improve. One of the reasons why last mile delivery suffers is because good people don't want to get posted there. So these places are more often than not seen as punishment postings. The moment you say, I'm sending so-and-so to Gurez, or I'm sending somebody to Karna, or I'm sending you, these are names that you'll be familiar with, sending somebody to Keren, they feel they're being punished. Whereas actually these areas deserve to have your best people go there. The reason you can't is because either the roads close in winter, or even in summer, the quality of the roads is poor and mobile network connectivity is bad. So if we can just improve connectivity, we've been working with Govt of India. Already, I think a couple of tunnels have been sanctioned for, one is for Dhurandhar, Gurez, we're hoping that they'll sanction one. If we can get these areas connected 365 days a year, That will be one major sort of area where we can address this last mile connectivity, and of course work with mobile phone companies so that data and mobile connectivity is there. These two things, if we are able to address, and perhaps some sort of hardship allowance built into how we pay people. It's ridiculous, but the fact is that the system is really skewed. We pay people more to work in Srinagar and Jammu than we pay them to work in the districts that you mentioned. I think somewhere we're going to have to work with Niti Aayog, with the Government of India, to see if we can reverse this. Life in the cities is easy enough as it is. You don't need to pay people more. In fact, they desperately want to get themselves posted here. We need to incentivize doctors, teachers, government officials to actually go and work in those areas.
Greetings, sir. Myself, Anand Tiwari. Before asking the question to you, I felt myself as the Kashmiri in the entire gathering because I was struggling for the mic. My question to you will be on two fronts. The first front is, sir, there is a popular trend today now going on TV debates or in parliament or at every forum that people link all the hardship, all the problems of Kashmir with Nehruji. And your grandfather, Sheikh Abdullah ji, was the pioneer of the Kashmir accession to a country. How do you feel that this is the situation of the country where everything is linked to Nehru? And the second thing is that a popular theme which is mentioned by the central government, that is of Viksit Bharat 2047. What role does Kashmir will play in that Viksit Bharat 2047?
Well, let me answer the second question first. Obviously, if India were to become a developed country by 2047, then Jammu and Kashmir would also have to be developed as well. That said, Jammu and Kashmir's contribution to the size of the Indian economy is very limited. So it's not as if we are going to be the drivers of Viksit Bharat. The drivers of Viksit Bharat will come from Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, UP, Telangana, Andhra, places like that, Tamil Nadu. They won't come from Himachal, J&K, Uttarakhand, smaller places. But we will have to play our own small role. And obviously we would like to see our development alongside the development in the rest of the country. As to blaming Nehru, look, it's easy to do. He's not here to defend himself. He took the decisions that he thought were in the best interest of the country at that time. He laid a strong foundation on which we are alive today. In terms of India's technological advancements, in education, in so many other ways. This was the foundation that was laid for our country. But it is very easy to sort of criticize people who aren't around to defend themselves. But that's how politics always is. Believe me, when this government changes and a new government comes in, every problem in this country will be laid at the doorstep of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. You can take it in writing from me now, that when this government changes, everything that goes wrong with this country will be Modi ji ki galti hai. Ye Modi ji ka kasoor hai. Ye Modi ne kiya hua hai. That's how politics works. And then when things change again, fault lines will change. I think we have to accept it.
We'll take the last question now.
जी मेरा नाम नासिर है, मैं PhD स्कॉलर हूँ पीस एंड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्टडीज़ का जामिया मिलिया में. यहाँ पे 370 के बाद चूँकि बीजेपी ने इंटीग्रेशन की बात की थी और जो जम्मू कश्मीर सरकार ने MOU किए थे साइन विज़ा विज़ कश्मीर, जिसमें PM-SSS हैं, सुपर न्यूमरी सीट्स जम्मू कश्मीर के बच्चों को मेल इंडिया में रखी गई थी. यहाँ आपने 2012 में मरकज़ी सरकार के साथ जामिया मिलिया में एक MOU भी साइन किया था, जिसमें जामिया मिलिया का एक सेपरेट हॉस्टल कश्मीरी बच्चों के लिए दिया गया था. लेकिन 370 के बाद उस हॉस्टल को आउटसोर्स करके बाकी बच्चों को दिया गया. इसी तरीके से जो है UP और बाकी राज्यों में कहीं सुपर न्यूमरी सीट्स कश्मीरी बच्चों के लिए रखी गई थी, उनको भी डाउनग्रेड करके ख़त्म कर दिया गया. एक पार्ट. दूसरा पार्ट की 370 के बाद या इस साल हमने देखा कि 22 से 23 ऐसे केसेस हैं जो कि कश्मीरी बच्चों के साथ मेल इन इंडिया में हो गए. इसमें मेजॉरिटी जो स्टेट्स जिनमें इंसिडेंट हो गए हैं वो इंडिया अलायंस है, जिसमें 11 इंसिडेंट्स हिमाचल प्रदेश में, 4 इंसिडेंट्स कर्नाटका में, 5 इंसिडेंट्स तमिलनाडु में हुए हैं. जिस तरीके से पिछले सरकार में या जिसमें जो देश के गृह मंत्री राजनाथ सिंह जी ने उस वक्त नोडल ऑफिसर्स बनाए थे, उसमें जो है सरकार ने लाइजनिंग की थी, कम्युनिकेशन नोडल ऑफिसर्स बनाए गए थे ताकि इन बच्चों के इश्यूज़ को एड्रेस हम करें। लेकिन इस साल में 23 से ज़्यादा इंसिडेंट हो गए। क्या जम्मू कश्मीर सरकार की रेस्ट ऑफ द कंट्री में जो स्टेट्स हैं, क्या इस प्रकार की कोई लाइजनिंग है या नोडल ऑफिसर्स तैनात किए गए हैं? क्योंकि सरकार बड़े बुलंदमांग तो दावे करती हैं एड्रेस करने में मरकजी सरकार, लेकिन आए रोज़ हम देखते हैं ह्यूमिलेशन है, टारगेट किया जाता है हमारे बच्चों को आइडेंटिटी के नाम पे, रिलीजन के नाम पे। क्या आपकी सरकार की तरफ से रेस्ट ऑफ द कंट्री में जो हमारे मुख्यमंत्रीज हैं या जो हमारे उपराज्यपाल हैं, क्या कोई लाइजनिंग है कि इन इश्यूज़ को जो है हम एड्रेस कर सकते हैं?
बिल्कुल है। जिन रियासतों का आपने जिक्र किया उनके साथ खुद मैंने बात की जब ये इंसिडेंट्स हुए, यहाँ तक कि मैंने अपने मिनिस्टरों की टीमें भेजी। हम छोटी हुकूमत है, 6 मिनिस्टर हैं, लेकिन 6 के 6 जो हैं जम्मू कश्मीर के बाहर गए, मुख्तलिफ़ रियासतों में गए, वहाँ के चीफ मिनिस्टर्स और एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर्स और बाकी इंतज़ामिया से मिले ताकि इन चीज़ों पे जो है रोक लगे, और काफ़ी हद तक रोक लगी। लेकिन जहाँ जहाँ ये इंसिडेंट्स रिपोर्ट हो जाते हैं उनको फौरी तौर हम डील करते हैं, और चीफ सेक्रेटरी के लेवल पे उनके काउंटर पार्ट, DGP के लेवल पे उनके काउंटर पार्ट, और मैं खुद या तो उस टेरिटरी या स्टेट के चीफ मिनिस्टर से बात करके उन मसलों का हल कर देता हूँ। विद इन द चीफ मिनिस्टर्स ऑफिस देयर इज़ अ सेल दैट कॉन्स्टेंटली मॉनिटर्स दिस। आई हैव द चीफ मिनिस्टर्स राबिता ऑफिस दैट ऑपरेट्स बोथ इन जम्मू एंड श्रीनगर, एंड बोथ हैव डेडिकेटेड पीपल with contact names, numbers, WhatsApp, email, etc., all available all the time exactly for this.
So thank you very, very much, Chief Minister. It was a wonderful opportunity to listen to you. You know, you're so candid in all your answers.
No, that's the word that scares me the most. The moment somebody says you've been candid or you're the most candid, I realize that ab ghar jaake maar padegi.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I
Thank
request
you all very
everyone
much.
to remain seated. May I now invite Unni Rajan Shankar, editor of the Indian Express, to present a memento. This illustration is by Shyam Prasad. Thank you, Mr. Shankar. I request everyone to please remain seated.